Okay, so good day everyone. We are the group 1 and we are discussing the corporate income tax.
Good day, everyone. Today I will be discussing the corporate income tax rate and basis of taxation. Bago ang lahat, ano nga ba ang corporate income tax? Sabi dito, it is a tax placed on corporations. Simply as that. Meron tayong two classification of corporation which is the domestic and the foreign. Domestic corporation ay yung mga corporation na created and organized in the Philippines or under ng Philippine law, while the foreign corporations are formed, organized internationally pero existing in the Philippines. Example ay yung McDonald's at 7-Eleven or other corporation na not originally from the Philippines but nag-ooperate dito. Under ng foreign corporation ay the resident foreign corporation. Meaning nito is may branch or office sila dito sa Pilipinas and engage in trading or business. The other one is the non-resident foreign. This one has nothing to do with the Philippines. These are the corporation na existing international pero hindi sila nag-cooperate sa Pilipinas. Next one is the rate of corporate income tax. As of July 2021, from 30% nag-reduce ito to 25% corporate income tax and applicable for both domestic and foreign unless yung net taxable revenue ng isang corporation is less than 5 million at ang total asset ay less than 100 million. Pwede pang mag-reduce ang corporate income tax hanggang 20%. Ang branch office tax naman ay applicable for foreign corporation. 25% of net taxable income plus 15% tax if nakapag-generate pa sila ng profit and will be remitted to foreign headquarters. Now, let's proceed to alternative minimum tax, also known as minimum corporate income tax or MCIT. If halimbawa negative or zero yung net taxable income, syempre papatungan pa ng tax yun kung lugi na ang isang corporation. Dito papasok ang MCIT or the minimum corporate income tax. Ang rate lang nito is the 2% of gross income of the corporation as of the end of taxable year. Ang condition lang nito ay dapat ang corporation ay nag-run na or nag-cooperate na for 4 years.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Veronia Reynata, second reporter. My topic is about taxable income, taxation of capital gains, and the last is dividends taxation. So, let's proceed. Taxable income. Corporate income tax is levied on a corporation profits, typically comprised of business and trade income. In computing taxable income, standard business expenses can be deducted. Ibig sabihin, corporate income tax is a tax imposed on the profits of a corporation, which mainly include income generated from business activities. When calculating the amount of income subject to taxation, the corporation can subtract standard business expenses from its total revenue. This deduction helps to determine the taxable income of the corporation, ensuring that the only net profit after accounting for legitimate business costs is subject to taxation. Corporate income tax is a tax imposed on the profits of corporation which mainly include income generated from business activities. When calculating the amount of income subject to taxation, the corporation can subtract standard business expenses from its total revenue. This deduction helps to determine the taxable income of the corporation, ensuring that only the net profit after accounting for legitimate business costs is subject to taxation. So, second is taxation of capital gains. Generally, capital gains are taxed as regular income. However, gain achieved by a domestic corporation or a resident foreign corporation and the sale of shares in a domestic corporation not traded in a stock exchange are subject to 15% capital gain tax.
Capital gains are profit made from selling assets like stocks and real estates.
In some cases, the tax rate on these gains varies 15% for certain stock sales and 0.6% for listed shares. State sales may have 6% withholding tax. Okay, the last is dividends taxations. Dividends received by foreign, resident, or domestic corporation from a domestic corporation are not subject to taxation.
This means that when foreign or domestic corporation receive dividends from a domestic corporation, those dividends are not taxed.
Essentially, any profits distributed as dividends from a domestic corporation to another corporation, whether foreign or domestic, are not subject to taxation. This encourages investment and business activities by eliminating taxes on this dividends payment, leading to potential growth and expansion opportunities for corporations.
Good afternoon, my name is Kyla Kabagsang. So, my topic is all about losses in tax. So, what is losses? Typically refers to the situational where individual or businesses incur financial losses that can be used to offset taxable income. So, ibig sabihin nito, ito yung mga tao, isang kumpanya na nalulugi. Kapag nalugi ang company nila o yung isang individual is pwedeng babaan yung tax sa babayaran niya. Pwedeng babaan. Pero may iba-iba kasing pagkalugi. So, minsan sa business operation, minsan sa investment, or sometimes capital asset. But, hindi na po pwede, mas malaki yung babayarang mong tax. Mas malaki yung babayaran mong tax kesa dun sa kinikita mo. And, syempre, nakadepende pa rin yung ganong decision kung anong pagkalugi yung nangyari sa'yo or sa company. Tax rulings. So, what is tax rulings? So, it is our officially decision or interpretation made by tax authorities regarding specific tax issues or transaction. So, meaning nito is it is a decision made by tax authorities regarding specific tax issues or transaction. So these rulings provide clarity and guidance to taxpayers o sa mga nagbabayad on how certain tax laws or regulation apply to their particular circumstance, and they can cover a wide range of topics. So, syempre, include the topic nila is income tax, deduction, and credits transaction. So, and etc. or more. And tax rulings, it helps ensure consistency and compliance with tax laws by providing clear guidelines for taxpayers to follow.
Good day, everyone. Let us now proceed to discuss year of assessment and corporate income tax return filing in the Philippines. The first one is accounting period and fiscal year. Pag sinabi nating fiscal year, is a 12-month period used by businesses and organization for financial reporting and tax purposes. Yung company, pwede silang mag-start, for example, April 1, 2023 and matatapos ng March 31, 2024. So, dapat during this fiscal year, the company should have a complete track record on its income, expenses, profits, and losses. Para at the end of the fiscal year, nakaprepared na yung financial statements. By that, pwede na rin masummarize yung financial performance and position ng company since dito nakabase yung magiging tax ng isang company. The second one is for corporate income tax and value added tax. Kapag magsasubmit ka ng corporate income tax return and meron kang head office and mga branch, pwede ka mag-file ng consolidated returns if yung mga branches na yun is connected sa company. Ibig sabihin, you can submit one document only and nakapaloob na doon yung overall income and expenses ng lahat ng branch. Pero kung hindi sila connected, kailangan mo mag-file ng separate returns para sa bawat company. Next is filing and payment. So after the fiscal year, kailangan magpasa na yung yearly income tax return before the 15th day of the 4th month. For example, same sa binigay ko kanina. So yung company nag-start siya around April 1, 2023 to March 31, 2024. Meaning, July 15, 2024, kailangan nakapagpasa na yung company ng yearly income tax return kasi kung hindi, magkakaroon sila ng penalties.
Good day everyone, I'm Marimar Madagani and now I will discuss the penalties for late filing or payment of tax. So yung mga taxpayers, kailangan nila mag-file ng income tax return and magbayad ng tax on or before the deadline. Kasi kapag lumagpas na sila sa deadline, syempre may penalties yun and syempre malaki yun. Now, let's discuss the penalties for late filing or payment of tax. Meron tong 3 types of penalties. 1 is surcharge, 2 interest, 3 compromise penalty. I will start first with surcharge. The surcharge is 25% of the basic tax for failure to file or pay deficiency tax on time. 50% for willful neglect to file and pay taxes. 25% of surcharge is para siya sa simple neglect. Yung simple neglect kasi, yung taxpayer nakapag-file na siya ng tax return bago siya padalhan ng notice from the BIR. So, yung willful neglect naman, kabaliktaran naman siya ng simple neglect kasi yung taxpayer nakatanggap na siya ng notice from the BIR bago siya makapag-file ng tax return. Now, let's proceed to the interest. Effective January 1, 2018, the interest penalty is 12% per annum. Next, before January 1, 2018, the interest penalty is 20% per annum. So, take note that yung 12% and 20% is per annum siya. So, paano kung na-late? Magbayad ng tax yung taxpayer kahit isang araw lang. So, hindi naman pwede yung 12% na buo or 20% na buo ang i-impose na penalty sa taxpayer. So, parang na yun? Excessive na yun, parang ganon. That's why kailangan natin i-compute yung interest period. Computation of interest period. The interest period shall be computed based on actual days divided by 365 days. So, kunwari, 1 day lang naman siya na late magbayad ng tax. So, yung interest period niya is 1/365. But we have to take note of this kasi 'di ba may leap year and sa February meron siyang 29 days. So magiging 366 days na siya. So for example, meron taxpayer tapos due date niya is April 15, 2019. Pero nag-file lang siya noong August 3, 2019. So ang babayaran niya is 100,000. So yung una natin dapat gawin is i-compute yung days kung ilang araw siya na late ng pag-file or pagbayad ng tax. Since yung deadline is April 15, 2019 and nag-file na siya noong August 3, 2019, so dapat ililist yung months. Kaya kunwari April, May, June, July, August and lalagay dyan yung total. So, di ba may 30 days sa April? Yung due date niya April 15. Di minus mo na lang yung 15 days sa 30 days. Di ang matitira na lang sa April is 15 days. Sa May naman, may 31 days. Sa June, 30 days. Sa July, 31 days. Sa August naman, kaya 3 lang. Kasi diba August 3 siya nag-file ng tax return. So, kaya 3 lang ilalagay nyo. Then, plus lang 15, plus 31, plus 30, plus 31, and plus 3. Total of 110. Since nakuha na natin yung total of days, now let's proceed to the computation of interest penalty. Let's bring down 100,000. Ayan yung amount na kailangan bayaran ng taxpayer. Ang ginamit natin is 12% kasi di ba nag-file siya noong August 3, 2019. Pero kung nag-file din siya ng August 3, 2018, pasok pa rin siya, 12% pa rin gagamitin. Pero kung August 3, 2017, dyan na yung 20% na dapat yung gamitin. Yung 110, ayan yung total of days. And yung 365, ayan naman yung days ang meron sa isang taon. So, multiply lang. 100,000 times 12% times 110, and then divide sa 365 equals 3,616.44. So, the last is compromise penalty. An amount paid in lieu of criminal prosecution over a tax violation. Schedule of compromise penalty. Failure to file and or pay an internal revenue tax at the time or times required by law or regulation. Kunwari, if the amount of tax unpaid exceeds 0 but not exceeds 5,000, yung compromise penalty niya is 1,000. Next, exceeds 5,000 but not exceeds 10,000, yung compromise penalty niya is 3,000. And so on. Ayan kasi yung given dun sa BIR. Now, our next topic is tax reliefs and exemption. Tax reliefs includes tax exemptions or preferential tax rates available on specific types of income such as interest, dividends, and royalties. Yung tax relief kasi ito yung parang discount sa tax mo. Ito yung in-implement din ng government para tulungan ka magbayad ng mas mababang tax sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay sa'yo ng special na privilege or deductions. For example, yung pera mo nagastos mo sa mga importanteng bagay katulad ng education, kaya gastos in medicines. So, inform mo lang yung government para payagan ka nila na bawasan yung tax na babayaran mo at bago nila i-compute yung tax na ibabawas sa sahod mo. The tax exemption naman, ito yung benefit na binibigay sa individual or organization based on the existing tax laws in the Philippine Constitution, National Internal Revenue Code, Local Government Code, tax treaties, special laws, and other BIR issuance and rulings. So, para ma-qualified sa tax exemption, dapat yung individual, wala siyang income and minimum wage earner siya. Then, non-stock, non-profit educational institutions.
Okay, so good day everyone. Today I will be discuss the tax incentives available or iba't ibang incentives na available here in Philippines. Okay, so the first one is bio incentives. The Board of Investment or BOI is the primary agency tasked by the government to promote investments in the Philippines. So ang bio incentives binibigyan ng Board of Investments na mga benefits ang mga manggagawa or mga employee na nagtatrabaho sa mga company para maengganyo sila to invest para sa pagpapaunlad ng bansa or ng ekonomiya. Okay, so the second one is fiscal incentives. So, ang fiscal incentives is isa siyang uri ng benefits na kung saan provided siya ng government. Na kung saan binibigyan ng government yung bawat individual or company na bawasan yung kanilang tax na kanilang binabayaran. So, ang ilang halimbawa ng fiscal incentives ay ang tax credits, tax exemptions, and tax abatements na kung saan itong mga benefits na to is nagbibigay ng pagbabawas ng pagbabayad ng buwis ng bawat empleyado or ng individual. And also, the fiscal incentives ay pinamahalaan ng government na kung saan para maengganyo ang mga individuals or employee na gawin yung kanilang trabaho para sa pagpapaunlad ng ekonomiya or ng bansa. So, the third one is non-fiscal incentives. So, ang non-fiscal incentives is kabaliktaran lang po siya ng fiscal incentives, kung saan binibigyan ng pamahalaan or ng government ang employee or individual na gawin kung ano yung gusto nila. Kumbaga is hindi direktang pera or pagbabawas ng buwis ang ginagawa ng government. So, hinahayaan lang sila sa kung anong gusto nilang gawin. For examples, binibigyan sila ng pahintulot na mamahala ng isang kumpanya or ng isang lupain nang walang binabayaran. So, sa ganon, ang non-fiscal incentive is parang mas pinapadali nito yung process pagdating sa pagbibigay ng benefits or incentives sa mga employee or individual. The last one is PEZA incentives na itinatag noong 1995 sa ilalim ng Republic Act 7916 na kung saan ang PEZA ay binibigyan ng government na pamahalaan or pangasiwaan lahat ng mga negosyong nakaregistered upang tulungan sa kanilang mga operations. Nang sa ganon ay mas mapakinabangan ng mga employee or individual lahat ng matatanggap nilang incentives or benefits sa kanilang trabaho. Okay, so yun lamang po. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm the next reporter. My name is Gialis de la Cruz Flores from BSB HRM2F. Okay, so my topic it's all about deductible business expenses and double tax treaties. Okay, dako tayo sa first in line, the deductible business expenses. Explain ko na lang. Mga gastusin siya na maaaring bawasan mula sa kita ng isang negosyo bago ipakalkula ng buwis ito. Kabilang dito yung mga gastusin direktang kaugnay sa pagpapatakbo sa negosyo, tulad ng mga bayarin sa upa, sahod ng mga empleyado, kagamitan sa opisina, at sa iba pa. Mga gastusin po yun na mula sa kita ng negosyo bago ipakalkula ang buwis. O mga halimbawa, bayad sa upa ng opisina. Ayan. Ang bayad sa upa ng opisina madalas, ang espasyo ng negosyo ay maaaring maging deductible expenses. Next naman is sahod ng empleyado. Ang mga sahod at benepisyo ng mga empleyado kabilang ang sweldo, overtime pay, at mga benepisyo, health insurance, na yung papasok mga SSS, PhilHealth, ayan, yung pag-ibig, yung sa iba. Kumbaga siya legally siya na inaalaw ng law or sa government na pwedeng gawin yun ng isang company kasi based yun sa rules nila. Ayan, legally yun, illegally. Okay, so now, gastusin sa paglalakbay o kunyari sa kaugnay sa pagdalo ng kompresyon, pagbisita ng kliyente, maaaring mga ganun, yung mga deductible din yun. And serbisyo ng professional. Ayan, mga bayad sa professional tulad ng abogado, accountant, consultant na tumutulong sa negosyo. Okay, so now, ayan, ilan lamang yung mga halimbawa ng mga gastusin maaaring maging deductible sa isang negosyo. Ngunit dapat tandaan na may mga patakaran at regulasyon sa bawat bansa na dapat sundin upang tiyakin na ang mga gastusin na ito ay maaari maging deductible. Next is the double tax treaties. Ito, explain ko na lang sa inyo ng precise. Okay, ang makakasunduan sa doble na buwis ay makakasunduan sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa upang maiwasan ang pagkakaroon ng doble na buwis sa parehong kita o tubo. Kunyari, karaniwang tinakda siya sa mga kasunduan na patakaran para malaman kung aling bansa ang may pangunahing karapatan na magbuwis partikular na uri ng kita tulad ng mga dividend, interest at royalties. Karaniwan din kasama sa mga ito ay yung provision para sa mga pagresolba ng mga alitan at pagpapalitan ng impormasyon sa pagitan ng otoridad sa buwis ng dalawang bansa na sangkot. Ayan. Guys, yun dun nga sa may double tax treaties, and nakikita natin yung kailangan siya ng bansa upang magkaroon ng kumbaga maayos na kalakaran patungkol nga dun sa mga tax. Okay, kunyari ikaw yung motor na yon or isang kotse, ganon, iluluwas mo dito. Hindi mo siya pwedeng iluwas lang dito basta hindi ka nagbabayad ng tax. Kaya ng ibang tao mas pinipili na lang na bumili dito sa lugar natin or intayin na lang yung mga gamit na lalabas dito sa atin, kagaya ng mga kotse. Yan, syempre pagka niluwas po pa yan, million yung tax niya, mga million, aabot na million yung tax niyan, depende sa anong kotse yan. Kaya yun yung double tax treaties. Syempre kailangan natin dumaan sa mga BIR, para hindi maging smuggled yung mga product natin. Ganon, yun sa double tax treaties. Kailangan rin natin makipagsundo sa ibang bansa kung paano magbabayad ng tax sa tamang paraan. Ayun. Salamat. Thank you po.